You've heard them 1,000 times without ever knowing their names. They're the ghosts behind the records that you love, the chameleons who can slip into any style, any genre, in any emotional space. They're the players who walk into a studio with zero prep work done and walk out having shaped the sound of an entire era. Today, we're stepping into the hidden world of session musicians, the unsung heroes of music. Just their stories, the crafts, and the unbelievable skill behind the scenes. Let's jump in. Welcome to Empire Sessions, guys, where discovery meets rebellion. This is the show that takes you on a journey through the world of music, the riffs, the legends, the hidden stories, and the lessons that fuel creativity. Here we break down the craft, the culture, and the chaos of sound, making it raw and unforgettable. Whether you're a musician, a fan, or just hungry for knowledge, Empire is your backstage pass to the rebellion of audio. So plug in, turn up. This is Empire Sessions. Welcome back, guys. I am your host, Dustin, and today is a really special episode because we're pulling back the curtains on a part of the music world that most of you guys have probably never heard or even seen. They're called the session musicians. They could be session musicians, session players, session artists, however I describe them. Session is the key word here because they're only majority of the times used for one session. So, hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys had a chance to take a look at that beautiful top 10 countdown episode that we had in the previous episode. We are on today, episode 9. And yeah, let's jump right in. These are the players who show up, plug in, and deliver magic on command. They're not always in the spotlight, but they're everywhere, shaping your favorite albums, defining hit genres, and elevating artists in ways most listeners never even realize or even know who they are. So let's dive into the world of the studio elites. So your biggest question is, to me, probably, what does a session musician actually do? So I think most people think session musicians just play a certain part because their job is always way deeper and way harder than that. But what I mean by that is a session musician isn't part of a band. They're not a part of the artist road crew. They're sometimes called in by studios, called in by record labels, called in by the artist themselves, or even the producer. All they are is someone who can really do a dang good job on being versatile and being able to handle any task that they are needed to handle. So here's what they really do. One, they interpret music instantly. So they're handed a chart, a demo, or sometimes when they walk in, even nothing at all. And they have to create something usable within minutes. Okay, what I mean by chart. So chart could be like chart music. Remember old school way back in the day, elementary, and then even middle school even taught it a little bit. Chart music, where you had the notes actually on a page and you had to actually read the music. It's very rare talent anymore. But yeah, demo could be easily like somebody sampled from their original tracks or something of that nature. But yeah, they had to adapt to also any style: rock at 10 a.m., jazz at noon, pop at 2, and then metal at 4. It's kind of an example of what they might have to do. But anytime throughout their day, they had to be open to any style. They had to solve problems on the fly. If a part isn't working, they rewrote it. If a tone in the song isn't right, they fix it. And if the vibe is off, they adjust the song. But one of the most underrated things that they do is stay calm under pressure. Because let's be honest, guys, still to this day, I talk about it a lot in the past because it meant a lot more back then, because you didn't have the technology you had nowadays. Studio time is still expensive. I think that's why a majority of your artists nowadays have a home studio, because they can do everything they can, but for cheaper. And if they just made that investment for their own equipment, it does save you a lot of money. Because let's be honest, mistakes in this industry do cost money, especially when you're in the studio. Cost a lot of money. They have to deliver fast, and they have to stay calm. The truth is, guys, session musicians aren't just players. They're translators. They're problem solvers, and they're emotional interpreters. Okay. That's something that's very underrated, and they have to be what you call a jack of all trades and still be able to produce and do their job efficiently on a daily basis. And like I said, you don't know what you're going to wake up to that next day. Session musicians aren't just talented, they're trained in a way most musicians never experience. So let's break down some of the skills that do make a session musician, artist, player, whatever you want to call them, very, very valuable to the music industry. One, sight reading. They can read charts like a second language, whether it be national numbers, classic notation, chord charts, whatever you throw at them, majority of the time they're going to be able to read it. I even lost a little bit of it, but reading actual music on a page and paper is such a lost art, and many people don't even know how to do it anymore. Because 9 times out of 10, when you're importing music into these softwares and stuff like that, it loses all of that. All you're looking at is a waveform. You're not even looking at charts, notes, things of that nature to be able to compose a good piece of music. Granted, some genres actually do still use chart music nowadays. Like, I'm not too into like going to orchestras or symphonies and stuff like that, but I guarantee just for everyone to stay on the same piece and same time frame, they have to know how to read chart music. And it's such a beautiful thing if you can actually learn how to read it, because that's a skill a lot of people are losing. Number 2, they have to be versatile. They have to come in with some sort of versatility so they can switch from a delicate finger south to aggressive downpicking without blinking. Now, that's just an example if they're just called in to do guitar work. But I mean, you could change this to multiple different aspects in music, whether it's, 1 second you're playing maracas and the next second you're on the drums. You had to do some vocal back work, or you had to come in as a producer and actually see what things you can switch up for that artist. The versatility is insane with these guys, and the fact that they can actually produce some really good music just from being called in, not even in a 2 hours notice, is fantastic. Number 3 is tone control. They know how to shape sound instantly. Not just what to play, but they have to know how to play. So tones especially are key, but timing is also. Their internal clock is ridiculous. They lock into a groove like it's nothing. 5, they have to have huge emotional intelligence. This is a very underrated skill that I think a lot of people, no matter what industry you're in, could actually learn from. 5, emotional intelligence. They read the room, they understand the artist's vision, and they know when to push and when to stay out of it. I think this is a fantastic trait no matter what industry you're in. Emotional intelligence is very key no matter what, but especially when you're dealing with artists, okay? Because who knows, that artist could have personally wrote that song instead of having a songwriter write it for them and they just do what they do best and sing it. But they could have wrote it themselves. So it could be an emotional piece telling a story from their own angle, from how they did it. So you have to really know, it's like, can I really switch this? Can I suggest this? Is this the right time to do this? So it's huge in any aspect, but especially from session musicians. And 6, professionalism. You can't come in with any ego. You can't come in with any drama. You just have to produce results. These skills take years and sometimes decades to develop. And it's very, very difficult to develop some of these skills. We're going to jump into the wild reality of studio life, okay? I'm going to kind of take you through a little bit of ins and outs of what these men and women might actually wake up and have to do with their day. So session work is unpredictable, it's chaotic, and sometimes it's downright bizarre. So a typical day might include getting a call at 9 a.m. for a 10 a.m. session. Yeah. Imagine getting a call you might be still asleep at that time from previous night's work. Imagine getting a call at 9, and then you have to be wherever you need to be in an hour. Granted, I hope these people are calling from within their cities that they're in, because otherwise being somewhere in an hour is physically impossible. Walking into a room with zero context, and kind of touched on that earlier, not even getting handed, a demo or some type of chart. Being told we need something emotional, but also upbeat, but not too upbeat. Now, that's just an example of what someone might walk into the room and then have to deal with instantaneously, like being told that's what they need. Imagine being told that, though, but also upbeat, but not too upbeat. Granted, that person might know exactly, since they've been in the industry for a long time, they know exactly what they mean by that. To me, if someone told me that, I'd be scratching my head like, what? But creating a part on the spot could be a riff, could be a drum line, could be it could be a chord, could be a melody, could be anything. Nailing it in 2 takes, they have to be pristine and on time. What do I mean by that? Kind of goes back to studio time is expensive. So these guys need to be like pinch hit home run artists every time they walk into the studio, leaving all this on the line before lunch and then doing it again elsewhere in the afternoon. So the unspoken rule of a session musician, you have to be good every single day. There's no warm ups. There's no finding your groove. You literally need to walk up ready and walk in ready. It's sad to say that you need to be perfect when you're in a spot like this. And the stories. Session musicians have seen everything, guys. Artists who show up with literally no songs. Imagine walking into a studio and you're called in and you have no basis. Imagine no context, but even worse. Especially if you're a new artist too. Like, hi, what music do you create? Producers who communicate only in metaphors. You have to learn to, again, read the room. That could be a good trait to learn. Last minute rewrites. I mean, I think that's prototypical for what a session musician has to do. And then an entire album records done in a single weekend. To be fair, anymore, that is pretty normal. There was one that I watched on my favorite band when they were creating the Disguise album for Motionless in White. But they recorded the whole thing on how it actually takes them to make an album. Just them. It's not the whole process for everybody. It's specific to them. But I watched it and it was so interesting to me because it literally went into a session musician. You could also call a producer as well. But literally how they recorded vocals was in a closet. Like you closed the room as you walked in. It's kind of cool because it was somebody in somebody's bedroom that just created into a studio. It's pretty cool. But nonetheless, entire albums anymore are kind of recorded on a single weekend. If not, if you have everything prepared and you have your ducks on a line, it could be recorded in a single day. But it's a world built on chaos and mastery. And let's be honest, guys, they don't get the credit for it. It's really sad, but they don't. So why? You're probably asking, why do session musicians matter? Why do you even bring this topic up? Why do you bring this episode up? So I bring it up because session musicians have often shaped entire eras of music, often without credit. Okay. What I mean by that, have you ever watched, it could be some award ceremony, whether it was like old school MTV or some type of music video awards or the CMAs or, Grammys, things of that nature. You ever watched an artist walk up on stage and, they do the speech that they have, but then some of them, and I'm literally going to say some of them because it really irks me because these guys don't produce music by themselves. They have a team that does it. This is all teamwork, guys. The artists get all the credit, but the team behind them never gets enough credit for what they do. And I always appreciate those that come up on stage and actually thank, I want to thank my producer. I want to thank my session artist. I want to thank this musician, this person for my help. And even if it's that 5 seconds within their speech for whatever time frame they have, because let's be honest, when they do an acceptance speech, there's a time limit. It's probably 30 seconds to a minute. But I always love those that go up there and actually point the spotlight on somebody else as well. Because let's be honest, guys, nobody in the world of music right now does everything by themselves. And if they do, that's crazy talent. But I'm going to say 98% of the music world cannot do it without a session musician, a producer, a friend, something of that nature that helped shape that album, that song. It doesn't matter. And it's sickening to me that people can go up on stage and literally just take the credit for themselves and walk off. Include them. It takes 5 seconds. I've seen people shout out names constantly. Like, to me, it's sickening because these session musicians mean so much to this artist, and it's sickening that they don't get any credit majority of the time. But let's be honest, they're the backbone of countless hits. Session musician is. When an artist needs perfection, they call in a session player. When a producer needs a specific feel, who do they call? Not Ghostbusters, a session player. When a label needs a song finished today, who do they call? A session player. They bring consistency. Artists evolve, bands change over time, but you know the one constant that is in music, session musicians. They deliver the same high-level performance every single time. They bring identity, even though they are known as chameleons. Many session players have subtle signatures, tiny details that if you'd listen to them, they make the track feel alive. And lastly, they bring humanity. In an era of digital everything, session musicians keep the soul in music. We'll actually hit that part, the digital aspect of music, in a later episode. I'm not going to go too far into that, but that is huge, especially when we're talking about music in today's day and age. But let's move on to the future. What does a future look like for these session musicians, for their work? So, the world of session musicians is changing, and it's changing fast. One, remote recording. Players can record from home studios and send tracks across the world. This is something that is so key, especially if you're trying to hit a deadline and you can't exactly produce that album without. Let's put in an instance from band. When I watched that one video from Motionless in White, guitar tracks being sent from a different place, drum tracks being sent in, and then the producer's taking all that, putting it into one, while Chris is doing everything in the box, doing all his vocals, which is cool. But I really think, one, it does lack ambiguity between everybody. So what I'm meaning, like, hey, like maybe your chord was missed here or something like that. We need to redo this track. Well, what if I'm busy doing something else during that day when I could rather be in studio in case something does come up on a fly? Boom, I can fix it. Yes, it's expensive to get everyone at the same place at the same time, but in case you needed last minute fixings within a track, I really think that is so clutch to have people all together recording their albums. Now, granted, I get it. Remote recordings are nice. They do help out a lot. So all you got to do is send a waveform 5,000 miles across the country, and then boom, you have a track. It's cool. It is. But what if something happens? It just creates some issues that shouldn't be there. So again, it's a part of the digital episode again that we'll get into. But next is genre fluidity. Modern session players need to understand multiple styles, sometimes in the same song. So what I mean by that is sometimes in the same song. We are hitting an era in music of genreless music. At some point, and that's something I'll touch on in a future episode of genres as well. But at some point, you're going to lose the quote unquote label for a music. Everyone's just going to be known as a recording artist. There's going to be no labels for country, which is going to be kind of sad with some of these legendary award shows. Well, if there's no genre, guys, you're going to lose the CMAs. I have a feeling you would. Because if there's no genres, how do you put a label on an award? It just is what it is. To me, you're going to lose the genre. And yeah. But either way, they have to be very versatile in the same song. So whether you're recording a hip-hop track that's going to have some smashing rock guitars on it, or you're recording a metal song that's going to have some hip-hop verses in it, like From Ashes to New. But yeah, you have to be versatile, and genre fluidity is becoming more of an importance nowadays than ever. Number 3, majority of them are probably already good at this, but technology integration. So they need to know how to use DAWs, so direct audio workspaces, virtual instruments such as GarageBand, such of that nature. Digital amps, I have yet to mess with those myself, which that does seem kind of fun since I do have access to those, so I might actually mess with those here soon. But yeah, they have to know how to use digital amps. They have to know how to work editing workflows, It's crazy, the technology and the amount of software that it might take to actually record an album, but the ending piece when you're done, it's like a breath of fresh air, man. But yeah, move on to 4, global competition. The pool of session musicians is now worldwide. Talent can come from anywhere, but here's the twist. The demand for great players has never been higher. Because no matter how advanced technology gets, you can't automate feel. Okay? Again, I'll do a deeper dive in a future episode on that, because that's one I'm extremely excited to bring you guys. The rise and fall of music within the digital age. And it's going to be a good episode. But yeah, you have to, and that kind of goes back with the global competition with remote recording. It does, because you could send a track 50,000 miles away from somebody else and they get it instantaneously. It's pretty crazy how that works. Session musicians are the invisible giants of the music world, the players who bring songs to life, elevate artists, and keep the industry moving. They're masters of adaptability, emotion, and precision, and their impact is woven into the fabric of music history. I want to thank y'all for joining me on this behind the scenes journey of something that maybe some of you guys didn't know. So maybe you learned something new today. What a session musician is, or session artist, session player, whatever you want to call them. But yeah, if you guys like this episode, please take it to social media. I need likes, I need shares, I need subscribes. You don't mind doing that for me, and put some comments in there, especially that last episode when we did that top 10 countdown. I'm curious to what you guys think are changes that needed to be made, or what you would have done. I am curious. I do direct answer to your guys' comments. So please leave me a comment, share, like, subscribe. I appreciate everything. I am on Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, soon to be Pinterest, but I am also on the YouTubes. So, yes. You've been listening to Empire Session, where discovery meets rebellion. The journey doesn't end here, guys. Keep exploring, keep creating, and keep the fire alive. Until next time, stay loud, stay bold, and never fade into the noise. This was Empire Sessions.